Oh, we have a galactic activation start tomorrow. Ah, okay, we are live for the second time. And I'm so sorry if it's glitchy because apparently it's nothing to do with my Wi-Fi. I'm just too high vibe. Too high vibe. No, but anyways, welcome to this new moon where we have the moon in Jinki 24, the city of silence, which is exiting the wheel. All right, I'll try to keep my energy down and non-projective and calm because the card I got is softly, softly, the tender touch, which plays into Jinki 36, where Venus is at, and the city of compassion and the gift of, yeah, what is it? I already forgot the gift. Humanity and the shadow of turbulence. Maybe we're having a little bit of turbulence. Nah, turbulence is way more intense than a little glitch. Oh, but the glitch in the matrix. Yes, that is the 24. We are the glitch in the matrix. Okay, all the codes are coming together. Good. But I wanted to start out, I'm saying the glitch. Sign. Fine. I had my own idea of what path I was going to take to get here. But first, we're starting out with the moon in silence. So I'm going to show the screen share the chart. And we'll throw it up there, throw me in the corner. Boom, shakalaka. Oh, and there we go. All right. So you can see here we have the moon in Jinki 24, conjunct the sun, hence makes the full moon. I mean, the new moon. Dang, makes the new moon. All right, so we're going to go and we're going to jump into Jinki 24. What did come up, oh, when I opened up the book, I opened right to the 6 core wounds of humanity. So, which the 6 core wounds of humanity, and since the gift is humanity, I guess the glitch would be of the 24 with the moon there is going to be the glitch in the matrix is the quantum leap from the shadow to the city. Yes, and that's what the 24 talks about. And so by happenstance, because all the angels that are surrounding me and guiding me, because I don't make this shit up, they just show me what to do, and I just be the mouthpiece of the divine. Yeah, so healing the 6 core wounds of humanity, taking us from the shadow to the acidic state of consciousness, because we are the glitch in the matrix. Okay, I gotta slow my hands down, otherwise I'll blow the fuses over here. Okay, the 6 core wounds are repression, denial, shame, rejection, guilt, and separation. So going to the 24 though, and being the glitch that we are, let's talk about it. Softly, softly, the tender touch. Listening for truth was the other card that came out for the oracle pull. I don't know if you can actually see this. Listening to the truth because of my background. But she's got a conch. She has a seashell up against her ear. So listening to the cosmic sounds of the cosmos. And then in the world, not of it. Aren't we all? In the world, but not of it. We are divine essence of source, creation. And then follow your own rhythm. Yes, because we do this, because we are the higher dimensional aspects of consciousness descended here into this now time space, we are the glitch that everybody has been waiting for. We are the gift to humanity. Believe it or not, you are the gift. So the 24th city of silence is exiting the wheel. This is the wheel of samsara. So I'm going to be just reading piece by just pieces. So this has to do with the ring of life and death, the codon ring of life and death, Jinki 24. So The ring of life and death is a complete genetic codon group governing the many processes that bring human beings in and out of form. One of its major symbols is the wheel. It speaks of the mechanical process that connect the wheeling of the constellations and galaxies to the rotation of the atomic structures deep within our bodies. It is all about those gaps between the cycles, the intervals between lives, the spaces between atoms, the silence between notes. Magic and mutation occur within those gaps. In human beings, this codon allows you to make quantum leaps in terms of the evolution of your awareness. The 24th gift is the heart of the human creative process. The secret to the 24th gift, really, which is invention, really one of the secrets of creativity itself. It is the fact of an acoustic field involving the raising of vibrational frequency through your genetics. Each time you hit one of those magical gaps, remember the pause, the stillness, the silence, the gaps between, right? You have the opportunity to either shift up an octave in frequency or remain in the same loop. One of the truths about addiction, which is the shadow frequency of Jinky 24, where the moon is and the sun. So one of the truths about addiction is that it can be used creatively to elevate your frequency. Invention is really creative addiction. You simply experience a spontaneous rising of the frequency of the mind's tendency to think in circles. Addiction thinks in circles, whereas invention thinks in spirals. All the great insights that have driven human evolution, from the arts to the sciences, have come across the bridge of the 24th gift. One in whom is willing to face their own ignorance can cross this bridge. It begins with your willingness to admit that you do not know and that you may never know. This inner honesty creates the environment for invention to occur, even though when it may occur cannot be predicted. It usually occurs when you are at rest, that stillness, manifesting the gap in some external way for yourself, sitting silently, sleeping, dreaming, or simply doing nothing at all. So, exiting the wheel, the city of silence. What you can do is consider the manifestation of this city and build a context around it. Thus far, we have looked at the nature of addiction and how it can be elevated or transformed into creative invention. We have discussed the way in which the brain follows patterns and how these patterns can mutate into newer, more efficient, and more original patterns. When we come to this city, we really have to put away the mind altogether. Silence is the natural background state of all human awareness, and silence can only occur when thinking ceases entirely. Right. The silence of the 24th city is a silence that descends onto you, even though it already lives inside you. It occurs as a result of the shift in your inner geography of human awareness. True silence reigns when the mechanism controlling your awareness moves from your head down to your solar plexus. You cannot say that silence is experienced because silence invokes the paradox of there no longer being an experiencer to have an experience. Silence negates everything, fusing together both subject and object. For awareness to shift in this way, some kind of physical mutation has to occur within the human body. Oh my God, I love where this is going. Certain chemicals must be created by the endocrine system that prevent the process of normal acoustic thinking. You no longer think, but are thought by life. You no longer think, but you are thought. You are thought by life. This is not something that can be described. At the citic level, there's no longer thinking, but there is both knowing and not knowing simultaneously. Not knowing is where not knowing is there when not knowing is there when awareness is at rest. Is not knowing when awareness is at rest, and knowing is when awareness engages in some form of communication with the outside world. Both expressions really amount to the same thing. When the mind ceases to think, then all addictive behavior also ceases. When the mind ceases to think, then all addictive behavior ceases. Okay. The ultimate addiction of believing yourself to be separate from life is eradicated. In this sense, silence does not necessarily denote physical silence. The silence of the city is an internal silence that is permanently engaged. Just as addiction can be transformed through natural gaps in the functioning of awareness, so the citic state exponentially expands this gap. Awareness itself is shown to be a veil that obscures the true nature of these gaps, which are really windows into the nature of pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is silence or emptiness. It is represented temporarily as the time before the beginning of the world, the Garden of Eden. Only true inner silence can bring an end to the Maya or illusion of your separateness. Only true inner silence can bring an end to the Maya or evolution of your separateness. Sit with that. It is the silence that lies between and behind the activity of your thoughts that systems of meditation attempt to induce. The 24th city has other surprises too. Its original name in the I Ching is called returning, a name with many interpretations and implications. We have already seen how the constantly revolving nature of this gene key is played out. It is rather like watching a film reel going round and round over the same series of frames until, at the gift level, a new set of frames is spliced in before the revolution continues. I just got a vision. Anyways, the circular movement of life returns to the gap of silence, that magical place where evolution and mutation occur. This is the silence between words of life, or the gaps between the atoms that we have already mentioned. The so-called elusive dark matter of modern physics, the Shekinah, the dark mother, the primordial energy, the substance before all substance. In terms of human destiny, our sages have ever sought to explain this returning movement at the metaphysical level, and it has given rise to many of the great metaphysical theories, two of the most enduring being that of karma and reincarnation. Of particular relevance to this city is the entire doctrine of reincarnation. The sages have long spoken of the greater destiny of the human soul as it incarnates into the world of form, lives out its karmic cycle, and then reincarnates again and again until such time as it transcends form altogether. It is as though human beings have a kind of cosmic addiction to form itself. And until this addiction is broken once and for all, humanity can never truly be free. At this final stage in which the connection with material form is raptured, North Node and Jinky 30 and Rapture, confirmation, woo, 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 on my phone. Ah, shit. I'm just trying so hard to hold back my excitement. Okay. At this final stage in which the connection with material form is ruptured, The soul is said to become enlightened and returns to the ocean of being. Oh my God. Now do these cards make sense? Now do these cards make sense? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Close it out. Now do they, okay, I have got to get rid of the background real quick for this. I'm only gonna blur my this is help if I just come on. I'm gonna have to unblur my background, guys. You're gonna see my whiteboard. Don't be upset. Okay, you're seeing my whiteboard, whatever. Look at this. Softly, softly, so slowly. Okay, tender touch. Look, it's the breath of life, the mother, the dark mother, the Shekinah, the breath of life, the dark matter, prana. Okay, look at this. Look at her. Take off the ring light there. Look at this. Oh my gosh. And look, coming back. And then what was the other one? Of this world, not of this world, in this world, not of this world. Come on now. Come on now. Cards are totally lining up here. Everything's already. Follow your own rhythm. Oh my gosh. This is the rhythm. This is the rhythm. Yes, we are in that sacred pause and we are calling for that transfiguration, that transmutation from form into formlessness. All right, I'm going back to blur my background. From form to formlessness. Yes. Yes. Actually, I think I need to go back to like adjust the background. How do I even do that? Background effects. That's how. Yes. Actually, we want this one? No, because it's a globe. We don't want a globe. All right. Anyway, stop playing around. I'll stop getting distracted. Okay. Continuing forward. I had to point out those cards. I had to point out those cards. Okay. All right. So at this final stage in which the connection with material form is ruptured, the soul is said to become enlightened and returns to the ocean of being. Being, consciousness, or Godhead. We return to the Godhead. It is easy to see how such doctrines have emerged from the way in which human mind interprets life through the 24th gene key. As the 24th city bears witness, reincarnation is simply one interpretation of a much simpler truth. And from that point of view of this city, at least, it is nothing but an illusion because we are living in a Maya. We are living in an illusion. We are living in a dream. And so we are waking up. That's what enlightenment is. It is to enlighten the mind and be like, hey, get off your game. You're just dreaming. Like, what? Where was I? You know, people will be like, we're just going to wake up out of this simulation. You know what? Pretty much. Pretty much. Despite what the teachers may say, most people like the idea of reincarnation because it gives them the sense that there is something about themselves that they can hang on to after death. It gives us a sense of continuity. Whatever, you get the word. And justice underlining all creation. From the point of view of the 24th city, however, reincarnation is simply another human concept born out of language of the Maya itself. This theme is explored in the 44th city, this programming partner, where the Earth sign is, which is the programming partner of the 24th city. Both of these cities strip the human story down to its purest and simplest form, in which human beings are viewed quite coolly as simple genetic equipment for consciousness to play in. We are a biospiritual vessel for God to play in his dream, in her dream, in their dream, dancing in harmony together. When one piece of equipment dies, it is gone. But it played a part in writing a great transcendent script. Even though the equipment has died, the play must go on, as the saying goes. Therefore, what appears to keep returning to the world of form actually never leaves. Bodies are born and die, and their specific awareness functioning dies with them. but the overall consciousness beneath continues. It is silent, undying, intangible, and beyond form. Thus, when you identify with or remember a past life or even a future life, you are simply reading the information within your fractal line, within your genetics. It is contained within your blood, but no aspect of me survives death except the silence of consciousness itself. How can there be anything other than silence when true silence negates awareness? There is indeed relative truth within the concept of reincarnation and its culmination in enlightenment. However, the whole attempt to identify with continuity of awareness is a watered down truth. The only thing about reincarnation is the gradual enlightenment of the various subtle bodies as they incarnate into form. They move through the bardo states in between lives and then return again. You can also learn about the causal body, that subtle layer of your being that survives death to carry the essence of your evolution on to the next life, your soul. But the causal body is seen as an illusion at a certain point in the process, and it dissolves or shatters, so your enlightenment dawns. At this point, reincarnation ends as you find that gap in the great wheel and exit the whole drama permanently. All these wonderful descriptions are in fact part of the script of your celestial drama. And the real purpose is to help settle your mind and give it a sense of logical continuity. Nevertheless, stay cognizant of the nature of the vast paradox that hits you at the citic level. All such descriptions are essentially devices within the Maya, the dream, the illusion, the dance, the lila, that may or may not help you to relax within the Maya. The key is always to relax, because only as you relax can you find the magic gaps and experience the truth directly, not through your mind, but through your innermost being. Within the flowing story of the Gene Keys, the 24th city is the great trigger for the enlightenment experience. At a certain point in evolution of every genetic and karmic fractal line, a certain piece of genetic equipment comes into the world that represents the culmination of that line. And it explodes into its full blossoming. It brings an end to the whole mythic aspect of the human story. As more and more of these people are born, the overall story of humanity will slowly come to an end. When all the stories have been told, all that will remain will be the silence that was there all along, in those magical gaps between the atoms, the notes, the words, and the lives of all human beings. Like, yo, I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry on this live stream. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to cry, but my gosh, I'm feeling the tears welling up with inside my heart just because wow. Okay, spirit knows better than me to where to start with this transmission. Can you all feel it? Man, I know I can feel it. All right. Woo. And that's just where the moon is. And then we have the north node in Rapture. Like God, it said it is prophesized that, judgment day, the final judgment. That's whenever the body that makes up the soul of Gaia will be lifted up. This is what rapture is. Will be lifted up into a whole new realm in an instant. They make up the Merkaba, the chariot of light, the atomic structure. I'm guided to pull up the flower of life. I know that I got my background on again, but yeah, the flower of life, the Merkaba. Oh my gosh. Well, that's the seed of life. Ever. The original seed atom. Oh, yeah, the original seed atom, of course. The Garden of Eden. And return to our celestial abode. And that might sound far-fetched to some people, but other people, it is just a knowing. It's not an escape either, because this whole reality that we're existing in is the illusion. It is the dream. So what are you to escape? It's not. It's awareness. It's connectedness. Again, you're connected to the Godhead. It's to know all things. And then that's, and if you specifically, if you know about Tartaria and the electric city, plasma cities, every song has been sung, every bell has been rung, every story has been told. There is not a new song or new story. It's just repeating itself. And that's the short period of Satan. Materialism. Nothing new under the sun. No new creations. It's all just regurgitation. And so what else is there to do but to move in to the celestial evolution? Wow. All right. So the 36, where Venus is located. And she's obviously Jinky 36 is in Pisces. Oh, if we didn't know, Jinky 24, where the moon is at, is in Taurus and true sidereal astrology. It's conjunct Alcyon, so it's in the Seven Sisters. It's right there, and I don't know which one it is. It's in one of the sisters. What's the one that starts with an M? That's the one that's coming to my mind. Either way. So we got the Jinky 36 is where Venus is located. And I'm going to read out of Richard's book, Dare to be Divine, and then I might jump over to the 36. But in the Dare to be Divine, the 36th city is of compassion, and it's known as the dark night of the soul. Now, the 24 is, again, part of the codon ring of life and death. And so part of that dark night of the soul is a loosening of the ego's attachment to form, to materialism, right? And that's why we go through these dark nights of the soul, is so that it loosens our grip on reality and our attachments and entanglements within relationships and whatever that relationship is, whether it's a person, your family, your children, your desire nature, your ambition, goals, all that stuff. It's to shatter it all wherever there's an attachment and to serve God's will, God's purpose, which is the divine plan, which is God's plan for humanity, God's creation, which is what we are, what is all life. So in the Dare to be Divine, this is part of Jinky 36 is part of the fourth pillar of light, the pillar of truth. And divine, this is part of the 40th hexagram breakdown. It's part of the 40th, what do they call the, what is it, the mystical. I just got this book, so bear with me. I'm not super savvy with it yet. Give me another week. But it's part of the 48 letters of the four pillars, and this is part of the pillar of truth. So the city of compassion, the dark night of the soul. Notice how these cities flow into each other through their interconnectedness and families. Truth is a sword. It cuts us deeply. The sword of compassion is related to the 22nd city. Again, remember the 6 core wounds of humanity and those gaps in being the glitch in the matrix. So it's connected to the 22nd city. For the 36 and the 22 are in the same codon ring, the ring of divinity. Here we have the dark night of the soul. Compassion is an aspect of grace, arising out of the gift of humanity. It is paradoxically beyond humanity, for it comes from the stars. It is a stellar fragrance. Compassion is at the core of every atom of creation. This is what we discover as we reach right into the heart of the core wound. See how I just can't even make this shit up. All the great mystics have to go through this dark night where they meet their deepest fears. This is the divine doubt of Mother Julian, a medieval mystic. We have to meet the guardian on the threshold. This is where we face the devil in the desert, our doppelganger, our final trial. Long ago, the decision was made deep inside us to come one day to this crux point. Only our valor and our light will carry us across the threshold. If we have been granted the grace of wisdom or great love, just as we reach the threshold of unity, suddenly it is all taken away, leaving us bereft and alone in the abyss. We need that final purge so that there is nothing left in us, no subtle trace of vanity. Part of the codon ring of trials, one of those stop codon rings, those tricky. And it's the last one. It's the ring within a ring. Then our journey comes to its glorious conclusion. We enter into the mind of God. Yo, bro, you just come on. Cannot make this up. I didn't write about what the 22nd city might do. And it's hard to say what the 36th one day will do either. This field is vast beyond our reckoning. The 22nd will glow in a person through whom grace works, and so will the 36th. The difference is that the 22nd works with highly evolved souls, whereas the 36th works with lesser evolved souls. The 22nd city puts us through intense tests before she rewards us. The 36th, having gone through the realms of hell, now wishes to help others, especially those who are deeply lost. So the 36th gene key, known in the I Ching as the darkening of the light, deliberately seeks out the darkest souls and the darkest places. There is a tradition that Christ descended into hell. It's mystically known as the harrowing of hell. He goes down there for 3 days and then he ascends again. Why does he do that? Because when you are filled with light, you are immediately drawn to the darkness. The law of light seeks out darkness. That is its great compassion. The 36th city will find the ugliest places where the most dangerous people live or the meanest demons, and it will free them. A while ago, I was drawn to a man named Bawa, a master from Sri Lanka. I mention him in my book, The 7 Sacred Seals, as the embodiment of truth. He came from the forest, and I mean, he literally came out of the forest enlightened. No one knows who he was or any of his story. He emerged as a master in the Sufi tradition. And I read some of his words. He is a beautiful man. He always began his talks with, "My dearest, beautiful, sweet beloved, and beloved disciples and devotees." I hear somebody on TikTok that says this too. He may be part of his fractal, to be honest, because that's exactly who just came to my mind. He's dear. He's sweet. And he's always walking out of a forest. Oh my God, we really do just fucking reincarnate here in different forms. What is happening? The crystal clarity is what's happening. Like, wow, okay. In one of his talks, Bawa mentioned a certain date, the 15th of August, sometime in the last century, when he says he vanquished 52,000 demons. You cannot understand what a master says unless you comprehend these cities. The light becomes so great that it almost needs the darkness. The light of the cities is inextinguishable. The truth is irrefutable. When it faces even the darkest form of consciousness, that form has no choice but to become light. That is the will of God in action. When the master calls, the dog comes running. It's the same with the light. The glory of the divine is so magnificent, so resplendent, so humbling, so achingly tender and irresistible, it causes us to weep tears of release. Nothing escapes it. That is why when the mystic passes through the narrow gate, he or she becomes the bearer of good news. Never again can he or she be taken into the old news headlines. It's all perfect. God is everywhere. Existence is divine. There is nothing outside the will of God. All is grace. The law of compassion stands behind everything. The tragedies you can't make sense of in your life. Why did your loved ones have to die? Or that innocent child? All things which deeply wounded you. They are all resolved when you come to this truth. I can't say how. All that grief inside us is extinguished. No one died. Everything and everyone you ever loved is alive inside your heart forever. They are all there. I mean this. I'm not just talking about memories, but the quintessence of each of those you loved is inside your heart. So you can never, never again lose them. This is a mystical reality. Compassion makes us whole. Oh, after grace cuts into us, compassion makes us whole. So dare to be decisive. Dare to relay this divine transmission into your cells, to strengthen your faith, and to let it inspire you to go deeper into your spiritual practice. This is not my individual self, but the transmission speaking directly to you. If you have not found this teaching, it is because if you have found this teaching, it is because you are ready to hear it. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear. Oh, geez, that's so good. I've already read that one, highlighted a lot of pieces of it, but it's still my tender heart. It feels it. It's so good. He's my favorite guru. I swear he is. He's not my guru, but you know what I mean. But he is. He's my favorite teacher. I love Rudd. It has been a very difficult relationship with him, but I love him. And he has no idea. It was a difficult relationship with him myself. Because I had some deep shit to heal. That's okay. All right. The 36 here. The 36th city of compassion. And the gift of humanity, which is called spirit descending. That's the gift, is spirit descending, right? The 36 descends into the darkness. Grace tests us, and the 36 comes in and mends us up. Oh, I love it. Yeah, Grace will rip you apart. She's a fierce, fierce energy. Okay. Ooh, hiccups. So there is perhaps no better symbol for the entire journey from the 36th shadow to the 36th city than the life of Christ. In examining the 64 cities, one can see that certain gene keys appear to have very strong connections with certain mythical lineages or figures. The myth of Christ is one of these key repeating lineages, but the lineage does not much concern the historical personage of Jesus, Yahusha himself, as the frequency represented by him. God saves is what the name means. God saves, the Savior, right? So it's the frequency of the Savior. And can you see how now compassion that comes and descends into humanity, God saves? Yeah, comes in. So beautiful once you understand the names. So the symbol of Christ on the cross is a powerful reminder of the truths inherent within the 36 gene key. It reminds us that we are each mortal and that there is great beauty in our humanity, echoed in Christ's assertion that he was the Son of Man. People who do not understand the true relevance of the symbol of Christ on the cross may see this as an inglorious representation of God. In most religions, the prophets or gods are seen as powerful, beautiful, or awesome, whereas the figure of a man dying helplessly on a cross appears to be a deep representation of a victim state of consciousness. However, it is this aspect of Christ that makes him such an approachable figure for so many people. This very fact that he is suffering makes him more human. This approachability is what sets the 36th city so far apart from many of the other manifestations of the Siddhic level of consciousness. This is the city that spans the chasm between man and God. It fills in that gap between being a victim and being enlightened. It speaks to every single human being, and it asks each of us to ask ourselves a single question: why must I suffer? To know that you are human and to be broken of all of your attachments to being human and all of your fears of dying, and to know that you are never dead, that you never die, that you are immortal, you are the essence, you are the expression. The answer to the question of suffering lies within the 36th city. It is the same answer given to us by the 25th city of universal love. It is all about love. However, the universal love manifested through the 25th city is very different from the compassion expressed through the 36th. Universal love almost has a distant quality to it, as though it came from the gods themselves, which he's talking about the planets and the stars. The 36th city, the gods, the Elohim, the creator rays, the 7 stars of Ursa Major, the Rishi, the Elohim, the gods made in our image, Genesis. The 36 cities, on the other hand, speaks to the language of man, since it can only flower through a journey of intense suffering. Hence, it's called the dark night of the soul, individually and collectively. Such is the path of the 36th gene key. This is the flowering of suffering itself. And as such, it can no longer be understood through the word suffering. It is the fragrance released after the storm is over. And just like the 36th gift of humanity, this is a city that has to be earned. Beings like Jesus, Yeshua, Yahusha, who attained final liberation through this city, are salt of the earth people. They are burnished over and over again. They are burned over and over, put through the fires of purification over and over again. Through the trials their life brings them. And once they have made the magical leap away from seeing suffering as negative, it stops being so. It actually becomes their muse. At the Siddhic level, your own suffering becomes so universalized that it encompasses all humanity. All boundaries of self dissolve. Suffering and compassion merge into one as your human heart explodes with the feelings of all human beings, their pleasures and their pain, their aches and their longings, their vices and their virtues. At the Siddhic level, as the programming partner of the 6th city testifies, peace reigns supreme. In every mythic journey, there must always be a final trial, a moment of utter hopelessness and helplessness, like Jesus hanging breathed on the cross, crying out in agony to his God for understanding. These moments, these darkening of the light, come to us in life, not so much to test us, but to cut us so deeply with our own humanity that we are reminded of the awesome power of our own compassion for all our fellow men and women, brothers and sisters. Such trials give us the opportunity to make huge evolutionary leaps out of our shadow state and into the higher frequencies. There are many traditions which speak of the cities in terms of miraculous transformations made by truly evil beings who, in a moment of utter horror and complete surrender, make the leap straight from the shadow state to the citic state. This is one of the very few gene keys that allows such miraculous leaps of consciousness. Those in whom the cities have awakened tend to keep moving into those areas of life where the light is most darkened. They usually flourish during periods of crisis or war, or live and work among the poor and wretched. The 36th city goes on longing to explore the frontiers of consciousness within form. And after a certain point, it ceases to care or identify with its own security at all. Anyone manifesting the 36th city has at some point sunk into such a dark space of helplessness themselves that it is impossible for them to experience anything as intense again. This has the effect of annihilating all fear from their system, so that true peace emanates from within them. The simplest presence of such people, and the look in their eyes or the softness of their voice, can trigger all manner of so-called miracles in those whom they meet. These are the most heart-melting people ever to walk the face of the earth. Wherever they go, the true frequency latent within human suffering is immediately released, and compassion tears open people's chest and explodes inside their hearts. Even the darkest of natures can be instantaneously brought to tears through the presence of the 36th city. With the above in mind, the held softly in your heart, perhaps you may come to a deeper intuitive understanding of the true meaning of the Beatitudes, those most famous words of Jesus uttered in the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. All sorts of choked up right now. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Give me that high priestess card. Let me fan my eyeballs real quick. I could just feel it. It's such a deep transmission. Reading these words and just having the blessing of bringing this transmission to the collective for this new moon. Like, God, I'm blessed. I'm so blessed. I am so blessed to be guided to do this. It is such an honor. Making myself cry more. Okay. Oh, who's mooning? I'm mooning. Let's talk about it. No? Okay. Okay, so now we have Mars. Just move on. We have Mars in Gene Key 62. You know, I've read this book hundreds, if not thousands of times. I'm going to go with thousands of times. I've been reading this book for 10 years, every day for 10 years. And it still gets me. It still gets me. All right, Gene Key 62, the city of impeccability, the cosmetry, the language of perfection, impeccability. The acidic state of the 62nd gene key is impossible to understand intellectually. And this is where Mars is at, our emotions. See how I'm crying. I figured I would talk about the emotions. How they're impeccable. The timing is impeccable. The tears of grace running down my face right now and compassion. Okay. The acidic state of the 62nd gene key is impossible to understand intellectually. So take a moment and come into your heart. As the 62nd city dawns, all sense of continuity in your normal life is broken. Man, do you see how that word has been picked up in the 36 and in the 24? Like, come on. You're telling me that this is so beautiful. You just and I'm like struggling over this word. I never have an issue with this word, but it's because this word wants to be known. Like I'm being carried through the continuity. It's continuing to carry through. Beautiful. Oh my God. So all sense of continuity in your normal life is broken. In the true Siddhic state, all trace of your prior genetic connection is erased. Enlightenment is not only a spiritual and a mystical event, but is also an a chemical one, in that the very biochemistry of your body undergoes profound alterations. When you disappear into the Siddhic state, and that is precisely how it happens, what is left behind is simply pure consciousness operating through a specific genetic vehicle. This is generally referred to as the death of the ego. Once consciousness ceases to identify itself as existing, the behavior of the human vehicle is beyond the grasp of the intellect. Such behavior is said to be impeccable. The word impeccable is often misunderstood when used in reference to true masters. The most common mistake we make is to believe that one in whom manifests the Siddhic state must now behave in some kind of holier than thou way. There is a widespread assumption that the so-called divine states of consciousness come with a sanctified code of conduct, which is not true because we know in the teachings of Christ that he was flipping tables over and he was condemning the the false light priests in the churches, right? And the kings and the lords and their goonies, right? That's right. He protested. He was rebellious. He was human. That's why he was depicted as being on that cross, because he was relatable. Again, this very much plays into the sixth root race, the Christ reign. And that's why we see in our reality with all of these megalithic structures with beautiful sculptures that are just perfection, but it is they're human form, right? They're not representing gods. how we've been told they're representing human in perfected form, because to be human is to be divine. And that's what the Christ reign knew. The millennial kingdom embodied this. Another knowing that we are at the rupture, the rapture, and the seventh root race to become, to exit the wheel of time. Wow. There is a widespread assumption that the so-called divine states of consciousness come with a sanctified code of conduct. Not at all. If you truly understand the nature of the 62nd city of impeccability, then you will see how laughable this notion is. To be impeccable means to be exempt from doing sin, which sounds as though it entails a certain level of purity or virtue. However, something profound needs to be understood here. One who has disappeared into the citic state has truly disappeared. Remember, sin is the sine wave. If you know my videos on Instagram, on TikTok, I think I even posted these videos on YouTube. All right, they're there. The sine wave. We live in the sine wave, which is sin. All right. There's into the citic state has truly disappeared. There truly is no one at home. Pure consciousness is at play within this being. So whatever they say or do is beyond reproach. If a man were to commit murder in a citic state, actually an impossibility, but if he were, he would be beyond reproach. Of course, society would punish him and humanity would judge his action as evil or wrong, but this does not detract from the fact that he is beyond reproach, because there is no he. You would only be punishing an empty body. I'm a genie in a bottle, baby. Come on and let me out. So this is how we can see it, how the deletes see themselves as being exempt from doing harm, because again, they know these teachings, and they've had these hidden teachings, these hidden wisdom. They've known this. So they don't view us as living beings. They view us as objects, and that they're obsolete from it. But if they were truly enlightened with these codes of wisdom, then they wouldn't do such harmful things. Okay. But also in the Tartarian time, when it began, the first ruler was Genghis Khan. And what they did, and you can read this in the history of Genghis Khan, is they went around conquering, and in the name of Christ, all the beings that were worshiping false idols. Okay, because at the end of the fifth root race, and the beginning of the sixth root race, the end of the fifth root race, there was all of the worship to not only the Hindu gods, right? And how far that society had fallen from the truth, right? They took mythic characters or mythic personas of the divine, and they started worshiping them as if they were individual gods instead of just being an expression of the one. Okay, not all of them, but as you can tell, it's still done to this day. So they were so far from the Godhead. And so when the sixth root race was born and the Christ was born within them, the Christ conscious, the God conscious, the plasma awareness was born within them, they went and crusades, and they gave the leaders, the world leaders, kings and queens of the multiple territories, along their journey from Russia, Mongolia, and China. They gave and Turkey and Egypt and everything, or Sudan and all that, or Kemet, whatever you want to call it. They gave them all the opportunity to move into unified consciousness, like unified God. And if they refused, then yes, they did unalive them, in masses, actually. Most people, the people had no problem shifting over into Christ consciousness. And so that's why we see it in this life, in the time of Satan, played out through the Jesuits' order and the genocide upon all of the Gnostic and the Essene. We've seen the karma, if you will, because what you put out comes back to you. And so we are here healing that karma, becoming aware of it, that that's not right to do so, right? And not to kill for no reason, not even in the name of unity, right? Oh, that's a beautiful little epiphany of awareness for you guys to hear. But anyway, so yeah, that's why it's all playing out. Karma is always played out. What happens, they get back. And you can look at that from every level, from the Irish, the Scots, the enslavements, everything, the Celts, the enslavement, that goes back to the Moors, that goes back to the ending of the sixth root race. It began with not the Moors, it began with Genghis Khan, and then they migrated over, and that's where the Kali and the Afro-Indigenous tribes of South America, California, Arizona, Texas, Nevada, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, everywhere that's like as close as you can get to the equator, Haiti, Cuba. Again, the closer you are to the equator, the darker your melanin, you're gonna be more melanated. And so, but they all like mingled, like the whole world was Tartarian, a Tartarian empire. But what falls is superiority. And so what plays in the next root, like the next incarnation, is the retribution, not by our choice, but by God's choice is the retribution. So where we see enslavement in one culture, there becomes enslavement in the opposing culture, if you get what I'm throwing down. And that's karma. That's justice. That's the scales being balanced, if you will. Maybe not in this life, but 10 generations later, it happens. Not to say that it's right. I'm not here to judge. I'm just being a messenger, because that's how it is. So, as we have seen through the 60-second gift, communication at the more refined levels becomes very precise, especially through the medium of language. The 60-second city concerns the use of language at a level beyond our knowing or our liken, our kin. Every single word has its frequency and vibration, and the order and syntax of your diction creates a certain aura. At the citic level, words do not come via the mind anymore. They are not thoughts that become words. They emerge directly from the void, naked and pure. See, what I just said was an exact example of that. If you look at the sayings of the great masters, you may often find that they say contradictory things about the citic state. For example, one may say that enlightenment can only be found through intense seeking, whilst another may say that nothing you do will ever bring this state about. There appear to be many discrepancies between the words spoken by the sages. This is because each still filters his or her perception through their own background, language, and culture. However, whenever somebody manifests the 60-second city, they create an exact linguistic science of enlightenment, confirmation. It is often amusing to note how closely related are the shadow and the city. Thus, such people will use the intellect to defeat itself through pure logic. They will also use language to demonstrate how futile language actually is. For it is language and thought that underpin every illusion of the human state in the first place. The 60-second city may appear to be highly intellectual, and indeed, it will appear in particular to men who are more mentally polarized than women. These are the sages like Socrates, whose logical argumentation cannot be defeated because consciousness itself is using the left side of the brain with impeccable precision. In such cases, language itself can be used as a means to bring about surrender within another. These people are adepts at using language in extraordinary ways in order to highlight the grand illusion in which human minds operate. But even more than this, the 60-second city brings the understanding that every cell within the universe is a divine word. This profound truth allows such a being to become a master of divine language. Because the divine alphabet is so simple, a true master can respond to anything and anyone, anywhere, with exact precision. The science underlining all creation is sacred geometry. The eternal truths contained in sacred geometry unite all human sciences, arts, and approaches to understanding through either the left or the right brain. Again, sacred geometry being the right brain, the math, if you will, behind the sacred geometry being the left brain. There is a cosmetry behind life that choreographs all actions. The closer you come to full awakening, the more harmoniously your life flows with this cosmetry. When you finally merge into the ocean of consciousness, you achieve complete oneness with the divine cosmetry. Everything you think, say, or do is no longer done by you, but by the whole. Therefore, it is done impeccably. The real difference between the city and the shadow is the complete absence of fear, which is the absence of self-identification. Divine cosmetry is the language of perfection. It is the manifestation of impeccability, in which your every movement and breath becomes an emanation of pure light. Your whole being is simply made up of living intelligent lines of force that move and flow without resistance. There is no longer anything out of place within your being. There is no longer any need, agenda, or discomfort. All is exactly as it should be, in you and in everyone else. The embodiment of this truth leads to ultimate peace. You have crossed the great divide in the throat chakra and can never again return to the illusion of separateness. You have entered into the language of light itself, to see the one world in all, to see the one word in all words, the fathomless, the ineffable, the wordless, the impeccable beauty of being. That was a long one. That was a long one. So we've talked about Venus being in Jinki 36, compassion, the dark night of the soul. That's where she's at. So there's going to be people that are experiencing their dark night of the soul, and you could be experiencing it too. The truth is are you going to just embrace it and allow it to be your muse, to mold you, to lessen and loosen you from your grip on life, the control on life, and know that there's no such thing as death, even though the death of the identity that you might be going through, right, with the dark night of the soul, it's not a true, I mean, it's a death, but you never really die, right? You're just transcending into the more refined, divine expression. You're emptying your vessel to be an empty vessel for the divine to flow through without attachments and strings, right? And the 62, where Mars is at, the masculine, the feminine, the creative, and the expressive. And believe it or not, you know, they're both creative and expressive. Just Venus is actually mathematics, and Mars is emotion. So it is creative expression. Whereas Venus deals with harmonic balance and the fifth ray of concrete science and knowledge. This is what all the what the temples are structured from is Venusian, musical, mathematical. So yeah. And Mars is the mind of God. And so it's the creative, imaginative, it deals with your emotions, and that's your energy, emotion, your energy, your chi energy. So your sacral center and that creative, sensual expression in whatever form you decide to put that out. So Mars is actually the creative feminine essence of flow, and your Venus is your intellectual, mathematical, due diligent, step by step, equality, expression. Ironic, right? It's also dance. It's dance too. I mean, it's music, it's dance. And that's why they're the hemi-syncing that you have to have with your intellect and your emotions, or your intelligence and your emotions. And you become emotionally intelligent. And you use your mind. You use Venus, the Ajna. You use Venus. Oh no, she's your throat chakra. Sorry. You use Venus to learn to temper your emotions through the mind, the higher mind, the divine mind, the Buddhic mind, the throat. The Ajna is Mercury, the communicator, the seer, the messenger. All right. All right, so we have Moon and Jinky 24 silence. And again, this is the rupturing, the space in the gaps where we have the glitch and we can jump from the shadow state of consciousness, all of the fear, and move directly into the city is in that gap in the silence. So we do have also, like I said, the Earth is in Gene Key 44, which is about teamwork. This is working with yourself, your cells, your ancestors, your ancestral lineage, and it's about karmic clearing, healing the bloodlines, healing the two lineages that make that come together, that form you, your mother and your father's lineage, and you being the medium between that is merging, all these timelines in which you are the expression of, and that you find yourself weaving in and out of relation with people. So call in the 36, that compassion to loosen and mend those wounds, the shame, the denial, the guilt, the separation, the repression, and the rejection, those core wounds of humanity. You can make that quantum leap in your life. You just have to be willing to fully surrender to what is being presented to you in your now moment, every now moment, and use these moments of transformation as your muse, like he says. And then we have Jupiter and Gene Key 20, which is the presence. It is the divine presence. It is in Gemini. And we have the North Node and Rapture. So I have talked quite a bit about the Rapture, so I will speak on it. Repression, denial, shame, rejection, guilt, and separation. Yeah. All right, so the city of Rapture only occurs when you step willingly into the fires of annihilation. So as we go through this collective dark night of the soul, balancing out those karmic imprinting. Got a phone call coming in from a private number. The 44 is also about interference frequencies, corruption in the DNA. Did my dog get out? Interference patterns and frequency. So let's go straight over to the 24. Let's talk about, not the 24, the 44, which are interference frequencies. If that isn't spirit telling you what to do. Okay. So it's the coming of the queendom is what the city is, and the synarchy. But the bloodlines is what this is. So we're having to clear interference patterns that are transferred through your DNA and must be resolved in order for a fractal to be cleared. So you have to do the hard things. You have to make those hard decisions. Okay. Your relationships will begin to carry a quality of devotion within them whenever you do. So human fractals. This subject, which is the 44th gene key, is an entire spectrum of frequencies concern a little understood subject that actually underpins the structure of human societies, as well as the science of incarnation. This subject, which will be briefly introduced through this gene key, is the existence and nature of human fractals. The term fractal refers to a phenomenon found in natural systems whereby patterns are found to endlessly repeat themselves holographically. The more you magnify a fractal image, the more self-similar patterns you will find hiding within it. The term human fractal is an extension of this notion to human relationships, referring to the web of invisible patterns that bind certain groups of people together. All right. So essentially what you're needing to know about the 44 is, again, these fractal patterns that come into the coming to meet. They're coming of different lineages, okay, to synthesize and to merge from these group dynamics. Human fractals seem to operate at different levels in relationships, families, and local communities, and even whole tribe gene pools. To really understand human fractals, you have to look at life both holistically and holographically. If we view separate human beings like cells within the greater organism, we could say that certain cells bind together at different places within the body at different times for different purposes. In other words, there is a kind of master program that choreographs the movement and migration of human beings. Even though it appears that we as individuals are making free choices, it is really the master program operating through all of us. The 44th shadow works like a virus within the operating system of the master program, throwing the collective choreography out of synchronization. This creates both local and universal interference. You end up with dysfunctional families, businesses that create more imbalance than balance, governments with inappropriate leadership teams, and relationships that were never easy or meant to last. The overall result is global chaos, which is what we see on the main screen right now in this reality. It is exactly what we see today, right? So, however, there is one vital thing to understand. The master program cannot be wrong. If it appears to be doing something chaotic, it is in order to diagnose the problem, the fucking virus. Locate the virus and reboot the entire system because we're getting a reboot. That's what the reset is about. That's what going into the next root race. It is returning to the source code within our DNA. The return to Eden. This is exactly what is occurring on our planetary level. The master program is beginning to assess and eliminate interference patterns, beginning with the smallest components in individuals. The current state of our planet cannot be fixed from the top down. If a program is misfiring in such a huge, complex manner, you have to fix it at the grassroots level. Within us, we are the basic components. The moment we begin to see relationships appearing in the world without interference patterns, we will know that the core human fractal is rebuilding itself from the bottom up. Once you have a clear relationship, assembling the rest of the fractal is relatively easy. Every clean human fractal begins as a binary, a relationship. This is a universal human blueprint, symbolized by the mother and the father of the family. Although the foundation relationship of this fractal does not require that these two be of the opposite sex. Along with its programming partner, the 24th shadow of addiction, the 44th shadow of interference, represents an incredibly profound virus that keep people from finding relationships that are healthy and loving. The 44th shadow brings a great deal of genetic baggage from the past. Many people interpret such relationships as karmic, since the bonds seem so strong and the lessons so challenging. It may be that they are not so much karmic, but as transgenetic. In other words, these relationships spans two separate fractal or gene pools. The shadow of addiction ensures that even if you leave such a relationship, you are immediately drawn into another, somewhere a little further along the same fractal network. The real reason for such relationships is that they are clearinghouses for ancestral memory. Interference patterns that are transferred through your DNA must be resolved in order for a fractal to be cleaned. You hear that? Interference patterns such interference patterns that are transferred through your DNA must be resolved in order for a fractal to be cleaned. Couples or partners who are actively involved in clearing out this collective genetic dysfunction are the pioneers of a coming new age. However, for the majority of the planet, dysfunction is the norm. And until two individuals in a relationship are ready to take on the ancestral interference pattern of their entire fractal, that fractal will remain dysfunctional. So that doesn't mean that you have to force yourself to stay in a relationship with somebody that's not willing to do the work, which means to do the work on themselves and within the relationship. If they're not, then you can leave. And that's fine. Whatever amount of work you've done on yourself, you will find an equal. You will get drawn to the same fractal lineage, but you will meet somebody that has stepped to the fucking plate instead of running away from it like they're scared to get hit by the ball. That's period. Point blank, period. You don't kill yourself to stay in a relationship. You don't drown yourself trying to make an entire relationship work because somebody is not willing to look at themselves and change themselves. I will make that very strong and clear. I know that I've talked about, making, relationships work and looking at yourself, but you cannot force somebody else to do the inner work, period. And yes, I know that Richard does talk about it in the Venus sequence that, only one person actually has to do it, but that's not true. It takes two to clear those lineages specifically with the 44 and the 24 lineage there. That's what they call those twin flames. And if your partner is not doing the work and they're pioneering out into the ego reality and doing all sorts of heinous things and not giving a shit about their energy, then you're free to go. Free to go. Okay? There's no need to be with somebody that's a host for demons because you're a sacred vessel. Okay? He's referring to normal people, not degenerates. All right. So, with that being said, the interference call that came through at 8:08, awful. Anyways, interference, blatant interference. If that doesn't tell you, spirit is instantly manifesting, right? So, let's talk about the 44 at the gift level because the 44 has keys to it's the master key. It's the skeleton key to the 3 source codes. All right? So, let's talk about that a little bit. The first thing that needs to be said on the subject that concerns the master genetic program that was mentioned in the 44th shadow, the master program operates through time and space, time as well as space. Since the program orchestrates human interaction through the medium of collective gene pools, At the purest level of consciousness, it is true to say that nothing reincarnates except the fractal line itself. It is actually possible to view incarnation from a number of different dimensions. When you study and contemplate the profundities of the 22nd gene key, you will learn about the subtle layers of the human aura known as the Corpus Christi, or the body of light, the rainbow body. When you view incarnation from the view of the causal body, which is what many traditions refer to as the soul, you can see how this very subtle aspect of your consciousness returns again and again and again. It gradually becomes more and more lucid and luminous. Your causal body, which vibrates at a rare, very rare frequency, also travels with the causal bodies of others across time and space in a kind of cosmic relationship dance. Such fractal lines of evolution have always been understood through the ancient laws of karma. However, when seen from higher dimension, there is only one single consciousness that underlines all creation, and it cannot be divided. Therefore, those causal bodies that travel together across the aeons, your friends, your family, your husbands, wives, lovers, and even your enemies, are all really aspects of one single body that keeps dividing in order to play out a wonderful evolutionary story. When seen from this higher dimension, the notion of an individual soul that survives death and travels onwards is a simplification of how consciousness uses fractal lines to incarnate. Only consciousness itself survives death. But the ancestral memory is stored in the blood and transferred through the DNA down the fractal bloodlines. When certain people recall their past lives, they're actually reading their fractal lineage and identifying with a single archetypal aspect of that fractal. Certain people have been able to recall incredible details about past lives, but again, this is an aspect of the 44th gift, whose whole purpose is to recall those people who resonate at its fractal line. The information of your entire fractal lineage can actually be traced all the way back to the source of all fractals. But this takes an extremely clear vehicle resonating at the level of the Siddhic consciousness. The gift of teamwork is therefore about recognizing who belongs in your life. The gift of teamwork is therefore about recognizing who belongs in your life. Because remember, at the corruption level, you're going to call in relationships that do not belong in your life. So when you heal it, you traditionally separate. When you meet someone for the first time and they seem familiar to you, it is because their vehicle belongs to your fractal line. Within the greater body, your cells have business together. Taking this further, if you were able to assemble your own true fractal around you, then the dynamics of the team would be nothing short of awesome. There would be a total trust within the group, or a total love within the family. The world has not yet seen, yes, they have. They saw this with Tartaria. He was unaware of Tartaria whenever he wrote about this. So I typically skip that stuff. All right. And again, we are in the end times. So when he's talking about, families needing to fix it from the grassroots, and that's not the time frame that we're in. You're here to heal your lineage specifically, to transcend this body. Those that are meant to make the shift will make the shift. We're not coming into the sixth root race like Richard Rudd believes so, because he's under the same ideas and ideologies of people before that were unaware of Tartaria because of brainwashing. And so what they were bringing through as transmissions were memories that they had stored to recall to get us to this point that we're at now. So moving forward, to awaken through the 44th city presupposes that you occupy what is known as a core fractal. If you were able to follow all human patterns back to their source at the Big Bang, or the creation, the primordial creation, creating this reality, you would arrive at what we call the three source codes. When consciousness was seeded into matter, or formlessness came into form in a basic trinary pattern. In other words, the compressed energy exploded into three primary fractal lines or arms known as the three source codes. This trinary fractal branching throughout the universe is well known in modern chaos theory. These three octopus-like arms began to spiral outward in ever more complex fractal patterns and gradually coalesced to form the rudiments of our material universe. Every human being alive today has within them a fractal shard belonging and or resonating to one of the original three source codes. Excuse me. The original trinary pattern or trinity over time has become the foundation of almost all the major world religions and mystical systems. Every computer program has what is termed a source code. The source code refers to a hidden code written by the program that allows access to the main programming matrix. The only way that you can influence the original program is if you have access to this code. In the case of our universe, there are three source codes, and the 44th city allows access to any one of them. Moreover, written into the master program of the overall fractal pattern of our universe are specific points in what we call human history that the program will mutate. Again, with the moon in silence and this gap in the space in between to create the mutation, the leap. In other words, it has a built-in design to evolve beyond itself. If we consider, which is jumping from the shadow to the Siddhic state, if we consider once again the synarchy of the bees, we see the existence of a kind of hierarchy, but one that is circular rather than linear or spiral, or one that works together in harmony and understands its purpose and where it's going, its trajectory. No one in the synarchy is above anybody else. At all times, there is an awareness of group inherent oneness, like we used to exist within the Atlantean time period, which is what is known as the perfected man, or when humanity, before the fall of humanity into the lower realms. It was the Atlantean experience was a synarchy, and that's what we and the Atlantean body, the Atlantean form was the causal body. It was the soul. And that's why we have these Atlantis memories, right? Because we have the soul shard memory of the fall of Atlantis. And it's also been passed on through myth, allegory, and lore throughout the ages or the aeons. Each unit has a perfect fit in the overall geometry. And again, if there is, we're going back to the seed atom, the original source atom, right? The seed atom. And I got you see the tree behind me when I'm doing this? Yes, the tree, see the tree, the atom. Yes, right behind my head. Kind of can see it. Anyways, the atom, with the Addams family, the perfect man, the perfect man, we're returning to the perfect form. Because we have done our due diligence and we're ready to transcend and move on to Eden again. Dun, dun, dun. Whatever, I just made that up. Within the vast tapestry are centers of force known as core fractals. Core fractals are what we term enlightened beings or masters. Every time a human core fractal is awakened, the entire arm of that fractal slowly begins to awaken. Thus, it is said that certain beings or avatars come to Earth to take on the sins of the masses. This refers to the awakening of core fractals and the domino effect through their ancestral genetic chain. The being expressed in the 44th city therefore occupies a specific genetic vehicle whose mutation causes, in time, a chain reaction through humanity. If you reduce this down to essentials, there is actually no glamour in the synarchy. The awakening of the core human fractal simply represents the activation of a previously dormant code within the overall program, the original source code. But because of all of the corrupt frequencies and karmas, sanskaras, the scars, and the actions of our ancestors that is in our genetic frequency, it's created corruption and dissonance in the holographic perceived reality. The time of Satan, materialism. We've gotten so far from the Godhead and spirit that we're living in a world that is, worshiping false idols and, politicians and governments and fucking porn and food and cars, materialism. Essentially, that's what the time of Satan is. The awakening, right? It removes the virus that is wound around its genetic lineage, the virus that represents the shadow frequency. The awakening of a core fractal essentially involves the death of the illusion of its individuality. The moment it gives up its independence, it becomes a clear conduit for consciousness to continue along its lineage. There is a specific number of core fractals, 144,000 to be precise, which is why this number has long been associated with the secret society of beings whose role is to awaken the planet. One final revelation concerning the synarchy is that it has existed since the dawn of time. It is simply distorted by an interference pattern that has also always been there from the beginning of time, which is what we refer to as, or has a reference to, I can't even remember the name. I don't remember shit. It's just not coming to me. The demiurge. There you go. The demiurge. Urge. This distortion or sacred wound is literally wound around the arm of every single fractal line. It is the reason for human suffering, but it is also the reason for what we call evolution. As the universe awakens, the interference is gradually cleared and the synarchy that lies beneath emerges. A whole new world and everything else just disappears. Interesting enough, humanity has always sensed the existence of the synarchy. It lies in all of our myths of a past golden age or a future paradise or heaven on earth. It is written into the destiny, it is written into our destiny to realize the synarchic nature of our species. Although the greatest irony of all is that by the time it arrives, we as individuals will have all disappeared into a whole new world because evolution will be over. And that's what time we're in. You cannot make this shit up. Even if I wanted to, it's all on the screen. It's part of the transits. And I'm just being guided to say what is in this book. So, I mean, it's an unfolding. I mean, he doesn't know about Tartaria, but I do. A lot of us do. Because that level of memory has been restored. But when he wrote the book, the level of the collective consciousness was not there. I think he started writing the book in 2007, or maybe it was published in 2007 or 2009, something like that, long ass time ago. So you can tell how much technology, divine intelligence has evolved in the last 30 years, 20 years. A lot, a lot, a lot. So I love you and I hope you enjoyed this live transmission. Hey, Marge. Oh my gosh, I'm just now seeing this. I'm just now seeing all the comments. Oh my God, I don't think I've read 44 yet. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe you have not read the 44 yet. Yes. Rapture. Hello. Hey, B, I see you. Hey, ladies. Oh my goodness, I'm just now seeing I hit the live. I hit on the live. I hit live and all of a sudden the comments pop up. All right. Well, I love you ladies and gentlemen and everybody that's watching this and holding in the frequencies, holding down the frequencies, anchoring them in. I mean, Nothing new, right? We do this, this is what we do, but the 24 is the pause. It is the gap that creates the rupture, the rapture, where the North Node is, and the impeccability of the sacred geometry. And Venus. Again, what we put into manifest, what we put out comes into manifestation as these divine transmissions come through. So I'm going to pull one last card. I'm pulling a tarot card from my Angel Wisdom Tarot deck, asking for a card if there's any. I got the High Priestess staring at me. She's like, I am here. The Magician. Let me get rid of this background. The Magician. You can see that here. Look at the, oh, what did I do that for? Background and effects, then. Look at this. We got the Magician. We are magic. I technically have the High Priestess and the Magician here. Look at that. The Magician says, magic is alive in your life. What you need to be success will manifest. If you believe it, you can do it. You gotta have faith, faith, faith. Oh, gotta have faith, faith, faith. And it says, the High Priestess says, meditate inward to discover your soul's true desire. And here it's like, I'm seeing the justice, right? In this card, right? I'm seeing God on the throne here, but it's a priestess, but it's an angel, right? So I'm seeing like the justice, the book of life, right? Holding the apple, the wisdom or the knowledge, and the water. I'm seeing the water cup here, and then the moon, which is represents the ether element, and the water pitcher is the plasma, so it's harnessing the plasma. I don't even know if these people knew, man. Maybe they did. The yin and the yang on the pillars. It's the balanced pillars. And we were just talking about the pillar of truth with Jinky 36, part of the Dare to be Divine aspects. And in the Magician here, it's alchemy, and he's pointing to the flowers in the card. His finger is like pointing into the flowers about blooming. It's time for you to bloom. You are the magic. We're bringing this into manifestation. So with that, anything else? Justice at the bottom of the deck. Wow. And justice. This is justice. Divine justice. I mean, get the fuck on. What? Just come on. Justice, High Priestess, and Magician. Like arcanas. I'm telling you, this is divinely guided. I mean, come on. I wasn't even going to read the 44 until I got the interference phone call. Had I not got that phone call, interference, I wasn't going to read the 44. I wasn't going to talk about the master codes. I was just because I've talked about it so much because it's my sun sign, it's my sun key, and it's my vocation. My core wound is the 44 and my vocation. Well, my wound becomes my vocation. So I definitely have this key twice. So I have talked about it, read about it so many times. I was just like, no, whatever. But Spirit said, no, you're going to talk about it. Wow. This is it. This is the rupture. This is the rapture. This is the transfiguration. It doesn't fucking matter. You can go from the shadow state of consciousness into the acidic state of consciousness instantly. It's a surrender. It's a willingness. It's an openness. Again, it's like Moses, getting the Israelites or the Jews, whatever, through and having him part the sea, like him parting the seas. It's like all you have to do is believe it, that you're worthy and you're divine. Like you just have to have that faith. It's an unwavering faith. You have to know the truth within you, like your purpose. And it's like, yes, we're in an illusion. and all sin, all grief, all guilt and shame and repression, denial, separation, all of that is not real. It's just what's a belief that's been held by your ancestors. All is divine. All is divine. It's all by God's divine. And you're also love. What are you? You're an empty vessel. Man, what a new moon transmission. I'm I'm just blown away. I'm always blown away by it, but call in Venus in the 36 and compassion to pull you into your in pull all these pieces and mend you back together. Walk out that forest enlightened. Walk out the forest enlightened. Part the seas enlightened. Be enlightened. Believe it so much that it just is. Neville Goddard. Believe it as it has already been done, and it shall be. Okay. I love you guys. And hey, Goddess Essence Energy. All right. I love you guys so much. I hope you have an amazing new moon. Thank you for joining me here in the live. And for those that are on the Patreon, this will be available for replay for whatever aspects that you did not get to see. And for those that are not on the Patreon, this video will disappear after I end this message. So much love to you and all that you are. And I see you. I see you. I see us. Maybe I should leave this one up. I think I'm going to leave this one up. It'll be on the Patreon as well, but I'm going to leave this one available for YouTube because I think that there's some more people that need to hear this that are not on my Patreon, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. All right. Much love to everybody. Have a beautiful, blessed new moon. Happy new month, because the new moon denotes the new month. We are now in June. Whatever. Fucking Gregorian calendar. No, but on the Mayan calendar, we still have 3 more days on this calendar here. 4. No, it actually goes into the next month. Because May has 31 days. But tomorrow is a galactic activation day, and today is a new moon on a tone 11, and it is blue spectral night, Kin 63, blue spectral night. Tomorrow's a galactic activation portal day, and it's a yellow crystal seed. Wow. All right. I love you guys so much. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Namaste. And thank you for your presence here at this time and all that you do.